And he says, all of you come down here, and I'll provide for you here in Egypt. Well, we've covered all of that detail to kind of fully portray what I think Joseph's state of mind is, the difficulties that he endured, his continuing faithfulness and efforts to do what is good, but still so affected by what had happened to him and how he had been betrayed and how that motivated him toward this scheme of cheating his family out of the youngest son. His family's already been cheated out of himself, Joseph, and now Joseph is going to cheat his family out of Benjamin. But Joseph isn't thinking about that up until this point. He's just thinking about, I want something. I want my brother Benjamin here with me. I think that's bitterness. I think that's focusing on how he had suffered and therefore not thinking about what's really good for everybody in the situation until he's really faced with his oldest brother finally being good, being willing to sacrifice himself. And until he's faced with the fact that if he follows through on this, his father is just going to die when he loses Benjamin as well. So, back to us. Are there any relationships about which you have bitterness in your heart? You know, you've been wrong, whether it's real or not, you feel like you've been wrong. Very possibly you actually have been wronged by somebody, and you just resent it. And if you've been truly wrong, there's nothing wrong with realizing you've been wrong. But how do you feel about it? And how does that affect how we relate to the people that have wronged us? And are we bitter about it? To the point that we think about ourselves more than we think about what's really good for everybody in this situation. Joseph finally comes around and he thinks about what's good for everybody in this situation. And quits being destructive with his family and starts seeing what he can do for his family. In those situations in our own lives, are we looking just for ourselves? Or are we looking to resolve the problems and forgive the wrongs that have happened in the past? Are we sustaining the conflict, the consequences? Maybe it's somebody you work with, maybe it's somebody in your family, maybe it's somebody who lives next to you. Let those things go. And seek to solve those problems. That's what Joseph finally does in chapter 45. And that's what he needed to do. And that brought about good results. You can go back to the passage we started with in Hebrews chapter 12. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 12, therefore strengthen the hands that are weak and the knees that are feeble, and make straight paths for your feet, so that the limb which is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. Pursue peace with all men, and the sanctification without which no one will see the Lord. See to it that no one comes short of the grace of God, that no root of bitterness springing up causes trouble, and by it many be defiled. Well, that's a long lesson to get to a simple point. But I think it's a good point. And helps us see the damage that is caused by bitterness. Don't let it live in your heart. Seek to do good, to resolve conflict, to end the consequences of wrongs that have happened in the past. If you have need this evening, would you come as we stand and sing?
While we pray and while we plead, while you see your souls dignity.